Hi everybody and welcome back. Today we're gonna be talking about Black Myth Wukong, the new Chinese Souls-like, sort of not Souls-like, but still a Souls-like, but also a 3D adventure. It has got a bunch of tags, a bunch of boss, and there's been a bunch of talk around what it actually is, and sort of how it is to play. Today we'll just be talking about how much I love the game, because I do. I think this is probably my Game of the Year contender this year, and I think there's a lot of good reasons for it. Because despite all the negative press it's gotten, despite all of the people who have been talking shit, I think Black Myth is one of the most competently made games that has been out this year. It's not just stands out graphically by being beautiful, but also through its gameplay, through its characters, through its writing, and most of all, also through its animation and storytelling. And with that being said, let's just start talking a little bit about why I personally love Black Myth is a Souls-like in the same vein as something like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Survivor, or the newer God of War games. It's not quite the Souls-like in the sense that it's going to beat the shit out of you at every corner. However, it has the same combat systems and general focuses around exploration, finding upgrades for your gear, and sort of constantly having this sort of progression while also having some fairly challenging bosses. Because Black Myth Wukong falls squarely in that sort of Souls-like but not really category. And it does that via not just having the same combat system, but also having some extremely hard bosses, because some of the bosses do kick your ass, and some of the mandatory ones do as well. There are legitimate, really hard fights throughout Black Myth Wukong, however, it never quite gets to the intensity of something like Consort Bredan or Millennia. And I think that's honestly for the better. It's something that opens it up for a lot more people to play, which is a good thing overall. As you sort of have this tendency with these games to be locked off for people with quote-unquote less skill, as they feel intimidated by just playing it. And I get that, especially with the first Souls games and stuff like that I covered. I too was fairly intimidated by the prospect of playing them. So they can feel sort of closed off. However, with Wukong manages to be a nice balance. Because yeah, there are some fights. As an example, very early on, you meet this widget and it's extremely fucking difficult for an early fight. Like that thing legitimately, I think, took me the most tries in the game out of all the bosses. And that's partially because of a lack of skills and a lack of gear at the time. However, as you progress, you get to unlock new skills, upgrade the way you fight, and some of those upgrades are good and some of them are not so great. And not just in the sense that they sort of do something or they are like really good upgrades, but in the sense that some of them feels like vital gameplay systems that shouldn't have been put behind an upgrade wall. Very much like the double dodge in Lies of P, there are also upgrades in here where it's kind of like, why are they behind an upgrade wall? I think chief amongst which, for me, is the composure, which does so when you dodge, you don't interrupt your light attack combo, because in Black Myth, the way the combat system works is that your normal light attacks basically don't do any damage at all. It is your sort of finishers of your combos and your heavy attacks that really deal damage here. And being not able to like finish an attack because an enemy decided to attack you, I think that's fine if you get hit. But when you dodge around it, you even hit the perfect dodge and you still get attacked by it, it kind of feels a little bit wonky, I'll be honest. But after you unlock that upgrade, honestly, that combat system just moves really smoothly. But it is a game changer, and it's one of those where I'm like, why is this behind an upgrade wall? I get how powerful it is, but at the same time, it's something that makes the game feel infinitely better to play with, just because of that not constantly being interrupted and not being able to do any damage. And I think it's where some people, especially who struggle hard with the game, might go wrong, is not unlocking that skill, because it's fundamentally something that changes how you play the game. It allows you to be much more aggressive, like infinitely more, almost pseudo Bloodborne aggressiveness. It's insane how good that thing is, because it allows you to get the first 4 attacks off, then dodge and finish the combo. Like, it is really nice, and it cannot be understated how important I think it is to have, which is also why I think it's sort of weird to log it behind an upgrade when it is something that's that important. And that sort of continues with the gear talk, in the sense that Black Myth doesn't allow you to change away from a staff. You will always be playing with a staff, However, there are multiple staffs, so you can constantly create new staffs that have different movesets, different perks and different abilities. There are ones that let you finish with a lightning strike. There are some that allows you to extend it, and there are ones that just simply gives you extra crit and so on. Like, there are a lot of sort of build options in this game, which is something that I didn't quite see coming, considering the fact that, as far as I heard, it didn't really have any gear. But it does. Not only does it have a bunch of staffs to craft and play around with, it also has a shit ton of armor to use that have different perks and set combos and stats, and it has all of these are called like pellets you can pick up, and then you can get permanent stat upgrades, or you can use potions to stat boost. It's a really nice system that I like kind of play with. I personally really enjoy my cooldown and crit build. Like, I try to lower the spell Immobilize as much as humanly possible, because Immobilize allows you to, well, immobilize any enemy, even during their attack, and then you stun them when you break it. It's incredibly powerful and something that I'd say carried me through 90% of fights. It is an insanely good spell to have. And it sort of just continues like that. There are a lot of really good options in this game. You also have the ability to transform into other enemies that you have defeated through the spirit system. Some of the transformations are just for single attack, and those attacks are usually fairly powerful. It has some sort of usability to them. For me, I kind of stuck with the widget that you unlock at the start, and then a later tiger that you get that has a massive increase to crit damage, which is why I ended up using it. But those both staggered, and they gave some sort of step bump that was at the time kind of useful. At the same time, you also have the full transformation, which allows you, usually by fighting a mini-boss, to take the entire form of the mini-boss, use their attacks, and some of the cooler ones out of those are unlocked through longer side quests. Because very much like a game like Dark Souls, this game also has a bunch of side quests to go on. They're slightly more obvious than the ones in Dark Souls. They aren't so obtuse. However, they don't directly point you to where to go. You still have to sort of figure it out through talking to the different NPCs and whatnot. But overall, it's all really good. It's solid stuff. And basically all of the side quests feel rewarding, especially the first time through. Some of the ones the first time through are just incredibly special, despite the fact that I have no idea how the fuck you were supposed to figure out yourself how to start some of them. But somebody did, and I'm kind of thankful for it, because some of the best fights throughout the game are these hidden side fights. One of the last and secret fights in the game is also the longest one, taking me like 30 minutes throughout a single completion of it. It was also just a really cool secret fight that you can find. And it's like these sort of things that kind of round about the game, you know? Because one thing is all of the stuff that you normally can find, which is all good. Some of my favorite boss fights in gaming, including beautiful cutscenes, insanely good fights that all of them feel cinematic and kind of fucking cool. But these two fights are where it sort of peaks. I honestly don't understand why they didn't include some of them as main fights, but the fact that they're there in the first place just makes them even better. That also brings me to the fact that Wukong is one of the only games I've played since Dark Souls 1 that includes a decapitation system for at least one boss, where if you destroy a certain part of it, you get an actual usable item. Finally, another game did it. In this case, it is a boss in Chapter 4 that can drop you some gauntlets if you destroy his arms. And it's not a necessarily like super dope system. It's nice to see it at least having a little notch here and there, you know. There was a nut there. You might not have picked up on it, nobody else might have picked up on it, but I sure did, because I am clinically insane. And these sort of small nuts are there. You can definitely see where I think they found some inspiration. But even if there isn't, and even if I'm grasping at straws, it's still a really nice little secret thing to have in a boss fight. And there are a lot of these. Enemies have drops that you can go around and farm if you really feel like it, or if you like me, end up 100%ing it. There's a secret gardening system where you can get seeds and then farm plants instead of having to go around and manually farm them every time. Super cute small detail that they didn't have to include, but they did anyway. Same thing with the trinket system. You start out with only 2 trinket slots, which is basically rings from Dark Souls, right, or Elden Ring. And you can upgrade the amount of rings, or in this case, trinkets you can carry by defeating a secret boss that you unlock through a secret mission that gives you a secret area to go to like defeat the secret boss. And again, it's a small thing, but it's something that adds a huge amount of like discovery to the game, because discovering these things existed fucking awesome. I didn't know that you could upgrade your armor until I was about in chapter 5 out of 6. That is pretty impressive to hide such a basic system. And it is a really powerful system in Black Myth Wukong, as you're able to take these really good perk combos from your older armor and just bring them up to mythic status, the highest upgrade tier in the game. And the game does a lot of that. And it's one of those things that I think is really great about Black Myth Wukong, that a lot of, the newer games don't do. But Black Myth Wukong doesn't just stop at having some really cool secret things to fight and quests to complete. It also has small things such as the meditation spots where you get a full skill point from just meditating for a bit. It's a small thing, but it's nice for like the treasure hunters like me who like to go out of our way to find new things. And there are a lot of these small things that also, again, you can find for stab boots. And there are like a lot of small things and stuff you can do. Luckily though, that isn't the only thing. I have alluded to the sort of call it beautiful, but after each of the major chapters, you unlock an animated cutscene. Some of those cutscenes are some of the best I've seen, period. Use all sort of different animation styles. Some of them, well, one of them is in claymation. One of them looks like a traditional like Chinese painting come to life. There's one that's Disney-esque. There are all sort of different animations being played, and it's all really good. Like, all of them are really, really beautiful. I love that. It was one of the main things that ended up really hooking me was after I saw the first chapter's cutscene that really got to me. I think they are beautiful, and I think they are on the best side of cutscenes I've ever seen. Because one thing is the introductory cutscene to the boss, another is how you explore that boss's backstory. And some of those cutscenes that did that. The very first one explores the boss that you just defeated's backstory, how he became like the boss he is. And it's sort of a story that kind of makes sense, and it's kind of cute. I love the way it's made. I love the detail in it. I love the fact that even if it isn't a boss that's included, there's a nod to that story within the chapter. As an example, there's this one chapter where you see this claymation animation where a certain character dies, and you can then go to find that character's spirit, which then has a secret quest for you. Like, there are all of these small things, and they all add up to a really big picture that is just really solid, which is then all drawn together at the end of that chapter, where you get to see like a mark of all the enemies, characters, and so on you've seen throughout that chapter. You can get a little bit more lore, or you can just skip over it. The first playthrough, I did get all of the lore tidbits I could get because I found the general lore to be really interesting. I mean, it's a cool story. And on the same point as that, I also do want to say that I think if you do end up playing it, I would recommend you playing it in Chinese over English and then just having it dubbed, because like always, original voice actors are just better. Not to say that I think Wukong sounds nice in any of the translations. He has that sort of arrogant persona to him that Wukong does have. But it also is sort of fitting when you have seen all the cutscenes and so on. But there is definitely a part of me that's like, I kind of don't want to spend any more time with him after the first like introductory tutorial thing to the game. And luckily, he is a mute protagonist basically throughout the entire game. So I'd say 10 out of 10. I like that. And generally, really solid game, like I said. The game is sort of on the short side, but the fact that there are 6 chapters, and if you don't 100% them, I will put them at around 30 hours-ish, which is a decent amount of time, but for $60, I mean, that's up to you to decide. I'm not really here to tell you whether it's worth your money. I'm here to say that I think the game is fucking awesome. I think it is definitely worth the money I put into it, and I think I have 100%ed it, which means that it's like to play full playthroughs of it. Well, not full playthroughs, but until chapter 6 for me, because I missed an armor set in chapter 6. And I think I have got my money worth. It took me about 80 hours, and I was on the slower side. I really enjoyed all of my time spent within the game. I think it is so far one of my favorite games of the year, and it's a game that I don't think I'll be forgetting anytime soon, and one of the ones that I'll be coming back to time and time again. Black Myth Wukong is special. It deserves the attention it's gotten, and it's a game that I can recommend to almost anybody, regardless of whether or not they like the Souls genre. There isn't any need to be scared of it being too hard, because while yes, it does have some challenge to it, it isn't an impossible millennia or console breakdown level of challenge. And I think that's about what I have to say today. I think the game itself is great, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to try it, who has a mild interest in anything Souls, or non-Souls, but just like the idea of playing the game. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time.